If you like this video, please consider supporting me on Patreon. For just $1 a month, your name can appear at the beginning of this and many other upcoming videos.
But you can see that for yourselves, right? I mean, do these guys look beat up or what? Look! Star Squirrel's so stressed, he's already going gray. But you can see that for yourselves, right? I mean, do these guys look beat up or what? Star Squirrel's so stressed, he's got kinks in his horn!
Oh, come on, did you really have to change that line? Well, it's time for another Celestia episode, and another episode that got leaked early, Horseplay. I will admit that it's a pretty cute idea to focus on Celestia awkwardly trying to act in a play about herself. And it's even more cute to see how terrible she is at it. But apparently this is a school play meant to capture the one'sversary of when she first raised the sun. So Twilight has to make sure that her acting improves before the deadline. Does she succeed, as does the episode? Well, let's take a look. The episode structure is actually pretty good. It takes its time going back and forth between setting up the play, delving into Celestia's lack of acting skills, and the stress that Twilight is going through to manage it all. The moments are evenly paced and don't overwhelm each other, allowing the story to have a nice flow. And what makes it so much fun to watch is the witty and sometimes deadpan humor that oozes from the silliness of the situation. The character interactions are especially funny, with all of them having distinct ways of working off each other. From Celestia embarrassing her acting coaches to Pinky trolling Applejack, to Spike being a really good straight man to Twilight's ridiculousness, it's a pretty good compilation of jokes. The best thing about it is seeing Twilight's stress progressively building up and becoming more and more exaggerated without getting too ridiculous and unfitting. She just wanted to do something nice for her mentor, and it just keeps getting messed up. On the other hand, she does do a good job managing her stress, thinking of ways to stay cool and resolve the problem by finding possible solutions. So the situation is relatable while still maintaining a good sense of humor. I think what really helps the humor to succeed is how self-aware it is. They don't even try to hide the fact that Celestia is a bad actor, and it results in some very well-timed antics. It's integrated into the story properly, and the different reactions to how terrible she is have a pretty good variety. Speaking of which, the best thing about the episode by far is Celestia herself. She is just so adorable. The episode gives her plenty to do, which allows her to work off of the other characters as well as being allowed to stand on her own. And it even adds some more insight to her personality. The way she prances around is just so cute, and it's played in a way that allows her to openly express herself, acting jovial, excited, and energetic. Even when she's being a bad actor, her delivery is so intentionally unsound that it's still so much fun to see her mess up. And it's made even better by how she takes her terrible acting in stride. She knows that it's not good, but she doesn't let it bother her, and she remains dedicated to helping with the play. She sees Twilight's compliments as her being supportive in spite of her errors, which makes her a lot less naive in hindsight. And we also get some perception on her views as an artist, feeling inspired by plays, describing it as an experience, talking about how it encourages people to move forward and improve while also bringing them together. That's a pretty cool thing to see coming from Celestia that we've really never seen before. Her dream of anticipating in a work of art is new for her, and the episode puts a story together that follows the concept faithfully. And there's also the way she handles her participation in the ending. It didn't matter if she was on stage or not, because in the end, she still contributed to the play and thus was a part of it. She still got to recognize her passion in a way that wasn't expected, but nonetheless wholly satisfying. I just really like this ending because of how even though Celestia didn't get to be an actor, she still got to be part of the production. And she's completely happy with that. I also really like Fluttershy's role in the episode, as it ends up becoming much more prominent amongst the other supporting characters. We get a pretty nice callback to a previous episode establishing her growth, and she starts by having a modest role in the play as its narrator. Later on, she ends up becoming the main role and does a pretty good job acting out the part, probably because she was carrying over her skills from season 4. She has a brief moment of anxiety considering that a lot is suddenly expected from her, but is pulled back to regain control over herself when Celestia actually does a pretty amazing job directing how Fluttershy should play her. The way she describes her duties in raising the sun in such a detailed and personal way is quite impressive. Maybe if she can't be an actor, she could be a director instead. It might even be fun to watch. Another aspect of the episode I'd like to bring up is exactly how Twilight tries working around the problem instead of just telling Celestia that she's a bad actor. Instead of just giving up on the play, she actually tries to help Celestia improve, and give her a chance to live out a lifelong interest. She sees potential in the problem being resolved without needlessly going for the easy option. And when that doesn't work, she tries to give Celestia a silent role, which would be more effective since it would only require body language and expression. She knows that her mentor isn't a good performer, but is doing everything she can to help her improve because she wants to do something nice for her. This is actually a pretty nice thing for Twilight to do, as it does establish how she wants to help her with something. But you can make the argument that it just ends up making things worse. She openly said that if she tells Celestia that she's a bad actor, it'll make her a bad friend, but why would that be the case? Celestia told her that she had no acting experience, so seeing it firsthand really shouldn't be surprising to her. And she just comes across as way too insecure. Being honest with Celestia about something that she already knew about wouldn't make Twilight a bad friend. She would just be telling her that she's not a good actor, which clearly didn't even bother her in the first place. So why would Twilight just assume something that's obviously not true? In fact, the better option is offered to her immediately because Twilight herself points out the better of two decisions. Telling Celestia would make her a bad friend, but not telling her would make her a worse friend. So just go with the better option and Celestia would have told you that she wouldn't have cared and you'd be able to work something out. But with that in mind, wouldn't just telling Celestia the truth actually help them reach a solution faster? If Twilight just told Celestia the truth in the first place, we would have ended up getting the solution a lot faster. So the problem would have actually been solved before the end of the first act. It makes the heart-to-heart that Twilight and Celestia have end up feeling somewhat empty and hollow because Twilight was freaking out over nothing, and Celestia wouldn't have been bothered by it. In hindsight, this does potentially make the story pointless, but it still gets some good entertainment value across, so it's still worth it. I do think the episode could have focused on some other interesting things, like setting up the play or advertising it across the country and everyone working on rehearsing their lines to get prepared, and have it take place in front of this huge crowd, which would really make it one of the biggest plays in Equestria. But we'll get to that in a second. There are a couple of more issues that I have with the episode. The first one is Celestia leaving her position to attend a play. So who exactly was running things while she was gone? Who was attending all those meetings, all those events, all of the stuff in her daily routine that we saw in Season 6? Certainly you wouldn't expect Luna to do it after all of her horrible experiences with it. Another problem is that some bits of dialogue are very confusing. First, how does Celestia act surprised about being told about her one'sversary? And why would Twilight forget to celebrate it? Spike did say that if it wasn't for Pinkie Pie, that all three of them would have forgotten about it. If this annual event is supposed to be so important, then why would they need Pinkie to not forget about it? Of all the Celestia-related things that Twilight would know about, you'd think that the anniversary of her first sun rising would be something she'd remember. And at some point in the episode, they say that everyone from Equestria is going to see it, and you think to yourself, wow, everyone in Equestria is gonna see it? This play must be a pretty big deal. Where are they going to host it for everyone in the country to see? The Crystal Empire Stadium? The Canterlot Theater? Will it be a live event where everyone is gonna see it on TV, which would finally expand on this world's technology growth? Well, no, because at the end of the episode, it's just a small crowd at the edge of the school. Oh, come on, you said that everyone in Equestria would be seeing this thing, which would give you all sorts of possibilities to work with. And that's not even everyone in Ponyville. You could have at least reworded the script by saying that everyone in Ponyville would be seeing it, which would have made a lot more sense for this small crowd. And lastly, I feel like the Student 6 got really gypped in this episode. They're part of a play centered around Celestia, and they don't really do anything except dress up. None of them even have a speaking role in the episode. We're practically a quarter into this season, and you've barely even focused on them. And given the preview for next week's episode, we're still not gonna see more of them. What I'm saying is that this season put a whole opener into introducing these new characters, so it needs to establish them. Can we please just get that at some point? Well, either way, I thought that Horseplay was a nice episode with satisfying value. Celestia is so much fun to watch, and the episode has a pretty good sense of humor. And that ending scene is a really sweet ending. But a lot of the story seems to ride on a problem that could have easily been solved, and Twilight ends up coming across as dim-witted over a very basic situation. Perhaps next week we'll get something more interesting. Oh, and speaking of more interesting things, I got a Last Jedi review to get to. Well, until next time, stay awesome. This is Map signing out.